Well, somebody who's never stood by waiting for a business cycle is Richard Branson, who's probably broken more theoretical business rules than anybody as he's pushed his Virgin in so many different directions. Think about this. It's gone to music stores, to fitness clubs, railways, airlines, cola, banking, telecommunications, space, and now cruise lines. One of his first cruise ships was in Sydney this week, and Ortenzia Borre found the time to talk to him about the business and a little about the fights in our local airline industry.
Well, I've been coming to Australia since I was a teenager. I love Australia. I happen to love Australians. We've done lots of things down here in Australia, so I think people like the Virgin brand, and they like cruising. And this is a very different kind of cruise ship. So it's a cruise ship for adults. It's a fun ship. We've got spectacular restaurants and great entertainment and great ways of keeping fit if you want. Even if you entertain too well at night, we've got wonderful fitness centres and massage centres. And anyway, it's something which we think will work and resonate well for us Australians. And we tested it out from Europe down here with a full load of Australians, and they loved it. And so I think we have a formula that works, and I think it'll be very successful.
Now, what makes Virgin Voyages different to other cruise liners? What's the draw card for us Aussies? So
I personally never, cruises didn't particularly appeal to me. So we decided to try to create the kind of cruise company that people who would never want to go on a cruise would want to go on, and so it's more like the most beautiful yacht in the world. Every single every single restaurant is just the most beautiful restaurant, the kind of restaurants you get in the best boutique hotels. Because there's 24 of them, you just got wonderful choice of foods. And we don't have things like massive rooms with buffets, which people queue up for. It feels intimate, and it's very beautifully designed and very, very welcoming. And I think having adults only just gives us the opportunity to offer a lot more, because obviously if you've got kids on board, you've got to cater for kids. Because we're adults only, we can have running tracks, we can have beautiful workout rooms all the way along the side of the top of the ship with views, and there's a lot of things we can put on it that others can't.
Now, what I did want to ask you is, you've launched this incredible ship at a time where some of your competitors are actually boycotting Melbourne due to high port charges. What's your take on this?
Look, hiking charges, particularly just before we arrived, was slightly unfortunate, and I'm sure that our team will have discussions with Melbourne on it. And we'd also love to be able to operate out of Sydney as well in future years. So anyway, discussions will go on. I'm sure it'll get resolved.
Now, the cruising industry obviously took a big blow during COVID, and it's recovered so well. How did you get through this challenging time?
It was tough. I mean, we literally launched our first two ships the week COVID broke out. We'd celebrated them coming out of Italy, going all the way to America, and then we had to send them all the way back to Italy to mothball them. And there they lay for nearly 2 years. So it was tough, it was expensive, and that has made the last year all the more gratifying, because the ships have been full. They've been doing wonderful cities and places in the Mediterranean, in the Caribbean, and now in Australia. And so somehow we've been resilient, and we've come bouncing back.
Now, post-COVID, we've got another set of challenges, economic challenges, labour shortages, high inflation. How do you navigate something like that in the current climate?
It's a real balancing act, because inflation affects everybody. All the costs go up, and it's up to our management teams throughout all the Virgin companies to try to get the right balance. You've got to try to make sure that you treat your teams fairly without without pushing the company to the walls. So I think by and large throughout the world, the Virgin leaders have done a good job.
Now, you're experimenting with biofuels. So last week, Virgin Atlantic flew the first large commercial jet with 100% sustainable aviation fuel. Is this the future of green travel?
I think up until last week, people thought it would be impossible for anybody, any long-haul airline, to fly across the Atlantic with clean fuels. And I'm delighted to say we proved them wrong. Once you prove people wrong at something, then there's no turning back. I mean, there will be companies setting up all over the world to produce clean energy fuels to sell to airlines, and obviously we will be encouraging them. And not just airlines. The very similar fuels could be used for cruise ships, and so. Well, one day I hope that we'll be able to sit on our cruise ship and sit on our airlines, and with knowing that there's absolutely no carbon going back out into the Earth's atmosphere.
Now, what do you make of the operating conditions currently for airlines in Australia? I know that Qatar have raised some concerns. Is it a fair playing field in your opinion?
I personally think that Virgin Australia should have had the right to have worked with Qatar to bring in flights, and that Qantas should not be able to put pressure on the government. Qantas is not, owned by the government. It's owned by it's a private company. It's a public-private company, and it should not be getting special favours. And to have an even playing field, it's important that the government treat airlines evenly.
Now, you've almost done it all. What's next for Richard Branson? Can we have an exclusive here on Sky News?
So 90% of my time is now spent trying to tackle the problems of the world. We've set up a whole lot of different organisations, whether it's the Elders, the Oceanic Elders, the Carbon War Room, the Global Drug Commission. Anyway, because I travel a lot, I see a lot of issues, and then we set up organisations, we run them like a company, and we go out to tackle these problems. And there are plenty of problems in the world. I mean, like the Elders are dealing with conflict issues in the world. I'm afraid that there's more conflicts than there have ever been in my lifetime, and we've got to try to see the end of those conflicts in a fair way.